She froze.
We are starting a new book study today. I'm frozen.
You're good now.
Okay. Hello again. We are starting a new book study today. We're doing 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. So we're glad you're with us and let's dig in. Today we're just going to talk about the introduction, which was really interesting. About the human capability to take on projects beyond the known scope of our abilities. And it refers to Michelangelo and how at age 17 is when he started sneaking and working on human cadavers. I think most people know that about him, that he studied the human body and in order to be able to sculpt it. And he just, the size of the project that he wanted to take on was just beyond the scope of anything that had ever been done, not just anything he had ever done, but anything anyone had ever done. And so I found that really interesting. Be quiet. Somebody's being bossy under the desk here.
Hey, Lola.
You can't hear Lola barking at me. Okay, so the beginning part of the introduction goes through kind of a history of the beginning of Michelangelo's career. First, he wanted to sculpt. It was like a 9-foot statue of Hercules, and then he went on to do. I think after that was the Pietà, and then Bacchus, or it might have been Bacchus and then the Pietà, I don't remember. And then ultimately he had done David, I think, by the time he was, and that each of these qualified as 10x growth for him, how he had to grow in his skills in order to be able to complete these projects. Get up here. Come on. And so that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So, Christy, what takeaways did you have from the chapter, from the introduction?
This is a really long introduction. I
Say that again.
I said this was a really long introduction.
It was, but it was interesting. A lot of introductions are like, really, just okay, get to the point and let's get to the meat of the book. But I thought this was really interesting in how it introduces what they mean by 10x growth, giving examples of what constitutes 10x growth.
Well, I
And
think one
how
thing
after you go through, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that really in thinking about the training that we were in yesterday, every time Michelangelo, do you keep freezing on your end? You're freezing on our end. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
glitching. Hold on. I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi on my phone and see if that helps,
Okay.
because my phone is sitting right here.
But I
Okay, I
think
turned off the Wi-Fi.
something that if you noticed, anytime Michelangelo wanted to do a new project, he truly just went all in. No distractions, no
Yeah,
do you want me to stop and you go in the kitchen and us start over?
hold on. I did not succeed in turning my phone off, the Wi-Fi on my phone. It's now off.
Okay. All right.
Is that better?
So far,
It's still telling me my bandwidth is low.
you're not glitching on our end right now. You know, I don't know that Michelangelo understood the 10x.
Might have to.
Um,
Yeah, let
you
me
want
go
to
to the
stop?
kitchen. Can you just? Yeah, could you just pause for a second and let me change
Mhm.
to the kitchen and hopefully. And we're back.
Yay.
Okay. So Christy, you were saying,
I was saying that every time Michelangelo either wanted, of course, the first job he did, nobody, even his dad didn't know he was doing it. His dad wanted him to go work for him. But then after that, when he was being hired for things that were much larger, grander scale than anything he had ever done, essentially 10xing each time what he had done before, he didn't really seem to allow any distractions. Like he
Mhm.
really was all in, focused. For his first one, like when I had heard, he studied cadavers in order to make, yes, I think most people have heard that in art history and humanities class, whatever. I didn't really ever put two and two together that when he was doing that, it was horribly illegal. Like they weren't using cadavers for anything. It was like
Right,
against the religion to do anything. And so he would, in order for him to do that, it wasn't like he was like, oh, I'm going to study a cadaver. He would work with his dad and then he would spend every night like in the slums because those were the only cadavers he could get were the people that were so poor that when they died, nobody cared. It wasn't
right.
anybody that was going to have a funeral or things like that. So he was like in a stinky, nasty mess in the dark, like
Mhm.
to use a lamp or whatever. Like it wasn't like he was like in an autopsy room in a morgue with lights and a silver table marking
Right,
each strand
right,
of a muscle. He was hiding in the slums with a dead body, knowing he would be prosecuted or even killed if anybody found out he was doing it. So, like, to say he went all in on his goal,
hmm
he went all in,
right,
right? Like, I think I've always kind of taken it lightly. Like, he studied cadavers to make the most accurate stone carvings. Okay,
yeah,
that, that wasn't actually a thing in 1493. It
right,
says violating a corpse was a crime punishable by death. And that's how all in he went, is knowing if he got caught,
right,
and going against his dad.
right. Well,
Like,
and lying to his dad, saying that the
yes.
project had been commissioned.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think sometimes we have to, it's burn the boat. Ed Milet would say, burn the boat,
Hmm
go all in. If you've prayed about it and you feel strongly about it and it keeps coming back to you that that's what you're supposed to be doing, even if you've tried before and never done it, maybe you got to get rid of every distraction and go all in. And I think that's what this book is going to be about is like focusing on the things that make the change and
Right,
doing more of that.
right,
Um,
right. And yes, eliminating the distractions.
mhm. Because you can't 10x something without getting rid of 10x worth of stuff, right? We only have
Right,
24 hours.
right.
So this I think is going to be really tactful, like, hey, in our last book, we learned skills,
hmm
and now it's which of those exact things do we need to be focused on?
Well, but someplace in here, it does talk about um that it's not just it's not as simple as 10 times more.
I think
It's
on
it's
15, on page 15, where he says, finally, 10x is not about any specific outcome. It's about the process. It's a
yes,
capability. Is that what you're talking about?
yes,
It's an operating system you deploy for one, dramatically expanding your vision and standards, two, simplifying your strategy and focus, three, identifying and removing non essentials, four, developing mastery in unique areas, 5, leading and empowering others who excitedly share your vision.
Yes. So, and then further down, that journey is the peeling away of more layers of the onion, discovering the essence of who you are. So, but also back on page 14, near the top, there's a sentence in bold print. It says 10X isn't about more, and it's also not about quantity. It's about quality. So that's what I'm thinking. It's not just about spending more time. In fact, it's not about spending more time. It's about a little bit of what they touched on last night, but I think in a more intense, laser focused way. Doing the stuff that yields results
Yes.
and peeling away all the rest of it, because the rest of it is just noise.
And I think, when he talks about back to the bottom of 15, peeling away more layers of onions, what popped into my head when you said that was when I am coaching somebody and we're digging into something and I ask why, but I ask why 5 to 10 times to finally get to the real thing. And so possibly this is going to be about that too, because what is stopping us from succeeding at a level we haven't before? We're going to have to peel back. Why is that glass ceiling there for us?
Yes.
I think. And so that's kind of what came to mind when he says peeling away more layers, discovering the essence of who you are. We're going to have to dig deep into who we are in order to become who we want to be, our ideal self.
Yes. Well, because also in all the Michelangelo part leading up to that, he mentioned each time that Michelangelo was a different person in essence after he finished each of these major projects. So that he was no longer the person he was when he went into the project. And there's this bit about psychological flexibility on page 8. That I don't know, I feel like I need to dig into a little deeper because I'm not quite sure what that means. That psychological flexibility is defined as the ability to respond to obstacles successfully and in a way that is congruent with personal standards. So you're not compromising yourself. Moving toward chosen goals, even when it's emotionally difficult, you acknowledge and accept your emotions, but they don't control you. I think that's a really, really big deal in our industry.
It is. I don't remember. I think it was Ed Milet's book. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was his. It maybe was a different one, but it talked about when we are very similar to a plane going through the clouds. That's where the turbulence is. And oftentimes when we set certain goals for ourselves or expectations, we talk a lot about, our brain wants to keep us safe. Our brain wants to keep us from failing. But the brain is so powerful, it causes physiological responses. And I think if you're not really in tune with it, and that book taught it to me because it was really talking about how, when you're pushing your body, whether it's workout or a business goal or whatever, your brain will create physiological responses that make you think you're sick or like, do you know what I'm saying? So and I know it's the truth because it has happened to me a few times when I've set really big goals and expectations for myself, and I can set them and I can journal about them and I can make some progress. And then, for instance, this Sunday and Monday, like I didn't, you may have noticed I didn't put anything in our accountability chat, but I was in my pajamas for 2 days, didn't get off the bed, didn't shower, barely ate. Rob was like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm super nauseous. I'm dizzy. When I stand up, I am get coming sweaty. And I knew, I said, I don't have a fever. I don't have anything. And so on day one, I was like, I don't know. I'm not stressed. I'm not anxious. I'm not, nothing like that. I went to what I know. And then by the end of day two, so I did that Sunday and Monday, and early Tuesday, I finally just took Titan on a walk. Like I didn't even walk the dog, like nothing. Took Titan on a walk and just kind of started praying about it, and knew immediately it was certain goals that I had set for myself, both physically and in my business. And I was making the progress and doing the things. And all of a sudden, my body was like, nope. And it just shut down. And I had to tell it, I'm going to work anyway. And so that all came to me on my walk. I came right back in. I messaged 4 people. I posted in the accountability chat. I called Rob. I was like, I know what it was. Here's what it is. Also, you've been not meaning to, but you have made little remarks about me not holding rank, and well, maybe it's not going to happen again, and blah blah. You make little remarks, and they are, forget what the word they used last night, but like
Diminishing.
yes. I said, I need you to be better because you're actually my only cheerleader. It's not like I have a whole team underneath me that is working and we are rising together. That doesn't exist right now, which means the person I hear from the most about my business is you. The person asking me about my business the most is you. So I need you to do better, because right now my body wants to shut down, but my brain wants to go sapphire. But my body is like, your husband makes plenty of money, stay on the couch and watch Netflix. I said, so I need help pushing through this, but I had never heard about a body doing that physiologically until that one book that I read. Mm. And so now I catch it pretty quickly. And I think that's where that comes into play. Psychological flexibility is moving toward chosen goals, even when it's emotionally difficult. Like emotionally, I was like, I don't want to work this hard. What if I work this hard and I don't sign any business builders? What if I work this hard? Like nobody's working this hard. Why do I have to lead every team call? Why do I have to, like, and I had a little pity party. I was like, why? Why am I doing this? And then I remembered, I actually love it. I don't mind leading team calls. I don't mind doing book study. I actually love it. But making the decision that, hey, I need to re-rank by December because I need a new car, that was like, that was too heavy for me until it wasn't, until I was like, oh, that's why you're still in your pajamas 2 days later. Also, you stink. Go put deodorant on and shower.
Maybe not in that order.
Not in that order. Opposite. But I think that's where our emotions really, if you're not aware that that's why you're playing another game on your phone instead of reaching out to people, you're not actually tired. You haven't done anything to be tired. Like, I didn't get any work done today. I was tired. You didn't actually do any. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
well, and similarly, I've been having similar experiences, like on therapy days. After therapy, I have this intense desire for a nap. Because I feel
it wiped you out.
Yeah. And also with this new job, which is not strenuous by any stretch, but it's forcing me, I'm having to go out and people
Mhm. Yes, that's a
which
real
I'm
thing.
not, which I'm not accustomed to. But
Yes.
it's fun. You know, I'm getting back in touch with interacting with teenagers, and it's fun and I'm enjoying it. But then when I come home, it's like, oh, I just want to take a nap. You don't need a nap. You haven't exerted yourself enough to need a nap, you know?
Or you can take a nap after you message 5 people.
Right.
You can take a nap in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is overcoming our emotions, because
Yes.
our emotions truly do create physiological responses in our body that if we're not really paying attention,
Oh,
they're going to
absolutely.
kick our butt.
100%. So it says in on 8 in the next paragraph or so, it says a core aspect of psychological flexibility is viewing yourself as a context rather than viewing yourself as content. Which I kind of want to talk through that because it's kind of, I don't know, hard to wrap my brain around. Um,
So
it
read the
goes on.
rest of it just for our friends who don't have the
o-
books so we could talk.
Okay. This enables you to not overly identify with your thoughts and emotions, since you're not your thoughts and emotions. Instead, you're the context of your thoughts and emotions. And as you change the context, the content changes as well. When you view yourself as a context rather than as content, then you are far more flexible and adaptive. Just as you can change the furniture or remodel a house, you can expand and transform yourself. By expanding yourself as a context, which involves a great deal of emotional development, you're enabled to handle the complexity of bigger obstacles and opportunities without being overwhelmed. You can be humble yet resolved as you innovate new pathways toward increasingly exciting and compelling goals. So, and I guess on reading it again, um, I think it's exactly what you were talking about, is recognizing I'm not really sick. This is just my body's reaction to what's going on with me psychologically.
Mhm.
And therefore I can shut it down. And really, my, okay, as a teacher, and my mom has said this even before I became a teacher, that sometimes she could feel like she was getting sick and she could make up her mind not to get sick.
Mhm.
And as a teacher, it was very common to get sick every time a break rolled around, because it's like up until that point, everything leading up to the major breaks, everything gets really hectic at school. And, there's this subconscious of, I have to be there. I can't not be there in this time. And I can push through vacations coming in a few days. And then as soon as vacation comes, you let the psychological barrier down and the body does get sick,
Mhm.
almost because you allow it
You
to.
let it. Mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean, and I, I feel like there's an argument of, is it the chicken or the egg? Because am I sick because I'm just so exhausted by that point? But there's still the point of, I was able to postpone it psychologically, to postpone getting sick. Maybe it was a real illness, but psychologically, I was able to postpone it until I had time for it.
Right.
So is that what we're talking about when we say context rather than content?
I think so. I mean, it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
Um, it's a little, but I do think so. Because I think the first time I truly realized that I could push through even when I didn't feel good was 2 years ago when I did 75 hard, where you have to work out twice a day for
Twice a
75
day.
days in a row for 45 minutes at a time. Um, and I did it. And there were days where I was like, I'm dying. I'm dying. I can't. Um, and in all honesty, Sunday would have been like day 20 of me having started 75 hard again. Um, and it was like I was like, I'll start over. Like I literally didn't push through it. I was like, I'm not doing anything. But also what I realized is I think I was putting too many things on me
Mhm.
also. Um, I related, and I think it's easy to do, right? Like you got to look back at your past, you kind of look in the past for indicators, success indicators to put them into action again, right? So 2 years ago when I did 75 hard and reset came out and I lost a lot of weight, I signed over 50 level ones. So in my mind, when I'm thinking it's time to push to Sapphire, in my mind, I was like, you need to do 75 hard. You need to lose a bunch of weight. You need to have a great before and after picture, and then you could do it. And so I was trying to do that and homeschool and whatever and 2 workouts a day, and it wasn't all fitting. And after our training last night and then this book, I was like, it's okay if I only work out once a day because also I have a half marathon in January, but my training will go much farther than that because I'm going to do a full in March. So it wasn't as if just my 2 workouts a day were like normal. It could be like I ran 8 miles and then I was still doing another workout. And I think I just, in my head, I needed to, which is good also. What do I need to release so that I can focus? And in my mind, I'm like, marathon, um, going Sapphire, homeschool, and my husband. But like, okay, those 3 things I can get done well every
Mhm.
day. I feel like those 3 things, and also being aware that we're going into this book, I'm like, those 3 things, I think I can 10x on those 3 things. I can run well and stick to my
Mhm.
training. I can get more on a better schedule with Andrew. I can really dive into my business. And with that,
Quiet. Be quiet. Can you
that,
really not hear that?
that I heard, but
Okay. Be
I never
quiet.
hear her. I never hear her.
Quiet. She's like, I just needed your attention for a minute.
Just pay attention to me. So, it talks about expand yourself as a context, which involves a great deal of emotional development. So I had to work, I had to try it all because you guys know me. I am like, why don't I set 400 goals and then try to achieve 300? And it's just who I am. Um,
Mhm.
but I feel like that's not going to work for me right now. And so I
Right.
needed to be flexible and really, for me, it was kind of pray about it, think about it. Okay, what really is my priority right now? Okay, that's it.
Mhm.
That's it. I'm not
Yeah.
adding 10 more goals
Right.
to my list, which I have a habit of. If anybody can
Right.
habit stack some goals, it's Christy Barkley, you know. But I feel like those 3 work together when we talked about like the things that give us energy, mental, spiritual, or physical energy.
Right.
Those 3 things, if I'm doing well in those, they kind of, for me, touch on, they all give me energy. When I'm in my business, that gives me energy. When I'm
Yeah.
working out, it gives me energy. When I'm doing well with Andrew, it gives me energy. And so that also felt good when I made my list of like what doesn't give me energy and what does. And maybe trying to do everything plus work out twice a day and limit my diet and whatever, it was just too much.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. But it was your brain telling you it's too much. You weren't really sick.
I wasn't really sick, but it caused me to stop and think.
Mhm.
But note, it didn't cause me to like give up on everything and say screw it all. It caused me to go, what feels good? And not easy, but what feels the most important to me and my family right now?
Mhm.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. And that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so jumping past another Michelangelo section to page 12. We have a subject heading there that says 10x is simpler, easier, and better than you've been taught. And oh, just above that, there's a quote from Leonardo DiCaprio, great philosopher that he is. But it's like, okay,
You're
but the
like, did
quote
you
is
mean to
good.
write Da Vinci? What are we doing here?
No, it says actor.
I
To quote
know.
the
I was
actor,
just, yeah, no, you're correct. I'm just saying I don't
the
ever have never
quote
heard anybody
is
call him.
for our friends who haven't read, every next level of your life will require a different you. And so that's what we're talking about, is achieving these goals is going to require fundamental change of who we are in terms of, I guess, how we portray ourselves, self-belief, not that, I'm going to change from a teacher to an astronaut kind of change, but or change from a good person to not a good person, but just in terms of what I believe I'm capable of, and therefore how I carry myself.
And I also think who you surround yourself with to get there is going to
Yes.
change.
Yes.
Um, in our business, every single jewel I've met has said the team that got you emerald is not the team that will get you sapphire. And then that's not the team that gets you diamond. It almost, they all share that thought of it's a whole different team, which is scary to think. And I don't think that's always true. Like the people who are like Kinley Severance, who went diamond in 11 months. Listen, that's all the same team. They all just
Yeah.
went for it,
Yeah.
right? But the long-term years, you know, there is a lot.
Right.
There are people that can push for a season and they might push to senior ruby in that season and then something catches them on the blind side and they're out, and there are people who will support you exactly where you are, but they don't know how to support you where you're going,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
looks different. There are people that love to be around people who are like them or they feel are less than them, but
Mm.
don't want to be around people who they think are better than them. And sometimes that change in their mind is simply a financial thing. They
Mhm.
think somebody's totally different if they have more money. you know so that the kind of every next level of your life will require a different you, I think, also in a different circle. Not always. There are people that are going to stay with you always and will keep rising with you and keep putting fuel on your flame and keep being your biggest cheerleader, but it's
Mhm.
more common for people to slowly leave your circle as you are
Mhm.
changing, if they're not changing.
Yeah. Another saying that you've probably heard, as I have, that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Mhm.
So, okay. Toward the bottom of that page, he talks about most people reach for just a little bit more.
a promotion, a little more money, a new personal record. Going for incremental progress is a 2x mindset, which at a fundamental level means you're continuing or maintaining what you're already doing. You're letting the past dictate what you do and how you do it. 2x is linear, meaning you're striving to double output by doubling effort. Do more of the same, just faster and harder. 2x is exhausting and soul defeating. Skip a little bit. By contrast, 10x is so big and seemingly impossible that it immediately forces you out of your current mindset and approach. You can't work 10x harder or longer. This is the part I was thinking about earlier. Brute force and linear methods won't get you to 10x. 10x has become a trendy concept thrown around in entrepreneurial, financial, and self-help circles. Yet most people radically misunderstand what 10x means and what it can do. In fact, most people understand 10x literally and exactly backward. Because most people have it backward, they struggle manifesting 10x in their lives. They get stuck in a 2x mindset. But even more, their quest for 10x leads them to seek the wrong thing, an endless race for more. 10x isn't about more, it's about less. Michelangelo understood this clearly. When the Pope asked about the secret of his genius, particularly in regard to the statue of David, Michelangelo explained, "It's simple. I just remove everything that is not David." So going 10x is the simplification of your focus down to the core essential. Then you remove everything else. For example, and tell me if you think this is accurate thinking. Until I read this yesterday, I was contemplating, I've arranged to have a new house cleaning lady come start next week.
Okay.
And she'll be starting with a deep clean, and you pay more for a deep clean than you pay for the regular maintenance. And we're struggling financially a little bit right now. So I was contemplating that I couldn't really justify paying for the cleaning lady. And then I read this yesterday and it's like, you know what? Cleaning house does not give me joy. A clean house gives me joy. The process of getting it clean does not give me joy. So I need to go ahead and pay the cleaning lady.
Mm-hmm.
Because my dirty house is not giving me joy right now.
Yes, here is what I would say. Yes to that. I am a huge fan of cleaning ladies. The time that you would have spent cleaning, use it wisely.
Yes.
Like in my jog today, knowing kind of what I processed yesterday, I said to myself, now that you're not going to work out twice a day for 45 minutes or more, work out once, but promise yourself you will spend that 45 minutes that you're not working out the second time working. You know, like I think if when I clean this freaking house, I mean, it's an 8-hour job, right? And the cleaning ladies come and a couple of them, they knock it out in a few hours, but it's a whole day. But if I was not going to spend that day doing anything useful, I should clean, right?
Right.
And so I think just yes, I feel like everything feels better when the house is clean. There are studies to show that your mind can't focus when there's clutter and mess everywhere. And my house is never cleaner than the night before the housekeeper comes, where I have decluttered everything. And I think the justification is that you're going to use that time to grow your income.
Yes.
And keeping that commitment
Yes.
to yourself.
Yes.
And not about it being between you or your husband, because then get all disgruntled and, but just you, like, hey, I hate doing that and I would rather pay somebody to do it. Also, I can earn more if I spend that time working.
Yes. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Only because
Well, and
that's what
that's,
popped in my head today, about the same thing, like thinking we haven't had a cleaning lady since I fired the last one. And thinking I really should. Like I cleaned all the bathrooms yesterday and I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like this is just
Mhm.
stupid. I hate it. But I need
Agreed.
to use my extra time. I need to justify it. Not a
Yes.
like a hey, I hate cleaning my house, so I'm not gonna do it, but hey, I can be more efficient and use this time to earn money.
Yes. Okay. Agreed. Because that's what my brain was doing, is rather than letting that take away time that I could / should be working,
Mm-hmm.
then pay someone else to clean the house and I can work.
Right.
And yes, now I have to keep that promise to myself.
Well, and maybe it is going back to
Work while she's cleaning.
habit stacking is yes. While she's cleaning, you and Lola go to a coffee shop that welcomes dogs with your laptop and you work.
Yeah.
Like create a something where that's what you do.
Yeah. So, okay. Removing everything else, everything that's not David. Okay. We kind of talked already about 14 and 15. We kind of started there. On page 16, he talks about 2 levels of freedom, and that surface level freedom, there's surface level freedom and higher level freedom. Surface level freedom is external and more measurable. This is freedom from, where you're freed from ignorance, poverty, slavery. But there is a more abundant kind of freedom that is internal and qualitative. This is freedom to, which is where you take full ownership over your life. 10x, skipping down a paragraph, 10x is the means, freedom is the end. It's the goal that you're trying to get to. 10x, and 10x is how you get there. Choose your standard and live based on that standard, regardless of the associated risks or costs. Back to the housekeeper. No one can give you this higher level freedom, a matter of conscious choosing. Freedom to is purely internal. You could have all the external freedoms imaginable and yet not be free. Every time you go 10x, you consciously choose to live your life at a particular level or standard, no matter how abnormal or seemingly impossible. You choose the standard. You commit to it. You live as you choose, transforming yourself and your world through your commitment. So this is both, to me, this is both exciting and terrifying.
Explain that.
Just recognizing the self change that's going to be involved.
Okay.
And I don't know, and the level of commitment is just, it's kind of scary.
Well, yes. But I think you have been preparing for it. I really think that each of our book clubs has led us to this place. We've done mindset, we've done habits, we've done what really tasks we should be doing to grow a network marketing business. And now this book is saying, okay, focus on what's really important to you.
Mhm.
and let's go. And we all know from experience, it's so easy to have a reason we didn't get things done in the day. It's so easy to have a reason, we didn't reach a goal at the end of the month. It's much harder to commit and go, I'm going all in. These are the things that I'm going to go all in with. Because that really is where the beauty comes, is that, freedom to.
Yes.
One of my whys is to earn enough money that Rob has the freedom to work where he wants, that we don't have to keep moving around based on who's going to pay him more this year, but that I earn enough that he could just have the freedom to, he's never going to not work. He's never going to not make plenty of money. But wouldn't it be great if we had the freedom to him to stay with a job he loves, or take a job he super loves and is excited about, even if it's this much money instead of to me, that's a great freedom.
Right.
And there's certain things. So I have this Post-it right next to my thing, and what I wrote on it, because of course I have my goals and my future board and all the things, but I wrote half of the things making you sad. I wrote it to myself. Half of the things making you sad can be fixed with more money. Dave Bishop, Deanna's husband, who's a CPA, has a saying, if money can fix it, it's not actually a problem.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And, like a broken arm doesn't devastate a family that has savings in the bank and good insurance. It's devastating to the family who doesn't have health insurance, is barely buying food, right? And so I have a list of things that I would like to buy. This isn't my end all be all, but it's a reminder, hey, it's just money. And if I work a little harder, I will have more money. Because my husband is not one to tell me no because he's yucky or hateful. He tells me no to things when it just doesn't make any financial sense in our budget right now. If money was not a thing, I could have whatever I wanted. He's not holding back on me because he doesn't want me to have stuff. He's holding back because he knows one day he's going to retire.
Yeah,
and I think going all in on your business so that you can have the freedom. The bottom thing on my list, it says personal freedom, and he read this a few weeks ago and he goes, are you going to leave me? And I said, no, why? And he goes, well, it says if you have more money, personal freedom. And I said, that means if I like a purse, I can buy it without having your attitude. That means if I want to go shopping, that's what personal freedom means to me. I love to shop. That means if I want to go shopping, I have enough money that your nose doesn't wrinkle when I walk in with 5 TJ Maxx bags.
Right.
Personal freedom is not me living by myself. It is the freedom to go buy whatever the hell I want without you caring.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, that makes sense. But have your reasons why you're going to focus on a few things, and that will help you go all in. Even if the day after you set those goals, you want to stay in your pajamas all day and not walk Lola, right?
I can still stay in my pajamas all day. I just need to work while I'm at it.
Correct. Yeah, except for part of your ideal person.
Yes, is walking daily. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And Lola is one of the things that lights my fire. So.
And one of your pillars.
Yes.
So that needs to be a thing.
Yes. That's where future me didn't show up today.
Well,
But future me will be back tomorrow.
Yay, future you went to work today.
Yes, I did. Okay, so over on page, I just saw it. I was kind of flipping pages. On page 22, under the heading where it says how this book will change your life, and then there's the quote from Robert Greene, which I will read. But I starred this, and I think this was the thing that is scary. That anything that is alive is in a continual state of change and movement. The moment that you rest, thinking that you have attained the level you desire, a part of your mind enters a phase of decay. You lose your hard-earned creativity and others begin to sense it. This is a power and intelligence that must be continually renewed or it will die. And I also think, and I'll only say this because he'll never hear it, I think this is where my husband is at.
He is not alone. 2 years ago, Rob went with me to Brooke Hemingway's mastermind in Arizona, like the 3-day Align event. And Emily, my daughter-in-law, had mentioned that to her dad. And her dad's response was, he's grown. Like, what does he have to learn? Like, he's a grown man. And Emily said when her dad said that, it changed so much for her because she realized, like, Rob would not be continuing to learn if he wasn't married to me. Like, and we say it for the 400th time, I'm a lot. And I push, like, you guys do a book club with me once a week. Imagine living with me. I am like a walking book club. Like, he's got something to say, and I've got a way to shift his mindset. He can't get away from it. But most humans don't live with a Christy Barkley. And it is very common to just go to work, come home, go to work,
Go to work
come
and come home.
home, go to work, come home. They're not setting goals. They're not trying to qualify for a Boston Marathon. They're like in their head. They're like,
This is it.
that's what their
And-
parents did. Like, personal development is not a normal thing. We feel like it is because in our industry, we are surrounded by people recommending books, people doing trainings, people doing podcasts, and we're in it. But
Mhm.
the average bear gets a 1.5% raise a year, shows up at work at 7:55, sometimes leaves at 5, sometimes leaves at 8, gets paid the same every other Friday, right? And that's normal. What we are doing is not normal, and many normal people don't know how to support us. They're looking at us like Emily has said, I think you've really inspired my mom. Like, she's starting to change the way she's doing things. She's starting to do this. And I'm like, I don't even spend any time with her mom. And she goes, she just watches you on social media. And we're close to the same age. And she's like, mom, like, doesn't really know. And her mom's a school teacher, 32 years in, surrounded by school teachers. She's like, her whole plan is like she gets to retire in 3 years. But she doesn't have a plan for after that. There's not a she goes, she watches you like keep setting goals and sharing them and hitting them. And she's like, what is Christy? What is happening? And that's normal. So what you're doing and what you are venturing out on, you're gonna have to choose your circle wisely. And it may be small, like me saying to my husband, right now, you're my cheerleader. I need you to step it up because I'm taking off my pajamas and I really, really want to hit Sapphire. And it's going to take double what it took to hit Emerald.
Literally.
And he was like, okay, I'll be more careful. And I said, no, you need to be intentional. Careful, yes, about saying bubble popping words, but intentional about cheering me on. We've got to work together because you want me to make this much money as much as I do. So we've got to be a team. Until there's more. Like when I went Emerald, I look back on my things and it was like 15 people ranked up on my team the month I went Emerald. Like we were all in a chat and there was that. I didn't need him. He was like a sideline. You know, thanks for stopping by. Drop off dinner on your way. I'm ranking up. But right now I don't have that.
Right.
You know, there's nobody on my team doing anything. So I had to go, hey, this is important to me. I need you. And I don't know what that looks like for you or you know, I don't know. But I think to 10x and to get intentional, again, very intentional about what you hear on the daily and hope that what you do inspires the person around you.
Yeah. Well, and even years ago in teaching, I remember feeling that way about get up, go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home, go to bed. And feeling, is this it? Is this all there is? I guess this is it. I guess it is all there is. I mean, what more is there? I get up, I go to work, I come home, I go to bed. And someday I'll retire.
And I think that's
So
very, very normal. I think it's very normal. Unfortunately. And I think that's where you're able to become inspirational to others. As you start sharing better and more intentionally on your social media, and it's, you know, getting past that, like, is this all there is?
like maybe that's a post.
Like maybe that's a bunch of posts.
Yeah.
Maybe you have one of your pillars of inspiring teachers to find more. Because I just feel
Writing
like
that down.
teaching has got to be exhausting.
It is.
I teach one, and I sometimes think to myself, this is actually a full-time job. I don't want to do, like, just pay me the 30,000 we're not paying for a private school and let me go shopping. Like, this is bananas. I can't imagine having a classroom. I can't have I think that you could have so much to offer teachers. Like niche in and speak to them. Tell ChatGPT to tell you what to say.
Thank you for that. That's another conversation for another time. Because I'm still struggling with that.
Both of you. Jean sent me a text this morning. She goes, I'm so lost. I said, you're not the only one.
Well, I'm even questioning whether I subscribed to the right thing. So this is, or was it a pop-up thing that popped up on my screen that fooled me into thinking it was what I wanted to subscribe to?
Okay, so we got to figure that all out.
Yes. So in the middle, just below the middle on page 23, important quote, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I
Says every
recognize,
football coach ever.
I'm sorry?
Says every football coach on the planet.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point because you have to practice how you're going to play the game.
Correct.
You can't, give it half in practice and expect to play the game well. And that was a talk that I used to have with classes all the time is, school, I guess like school is practice for life. You can't just half-ass school and think you're going to be prepared for the world when you get out there.
Mhm.
And I think I know I have slipped into some very bad habits of half-assing a whole lot of what I do over the course of a day. And that has to change so that how I do anything is how I do everything. And I need to do better. Thoughts on that?
You know, I think, I mean, I think that's it. I think really it's what it comes down to. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I think, um, he touches on a little here. I have a feeling he's going to really go into it. But again, um, he says right above that, if you're willing to commit and let everything go that you don't really want, then your life will be infinitely easier, simpler, and more successful than it's ever been. Is this scary? Yes. Does it require 100% commitment? Absolutely. The hardest part is thinking about it. The shock
Like
factor may
ripping
be
off the
real,
Band-Aid.
but once you make the decision, everything changes.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's that, I think the most simplest terms is like a morning routine. Like the things that you're committing to get done every day, do them before you do anything else. Don't allow yourself to play a game on your phone until you have messaged people.
X number of people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just making a commitment to yourself and keeping it, and again, narrowing down what's important. And if it's grow your business, walk with Lola, and date my husband,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
your schedule needs to indicate that that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Just
It
a
can
little
be
bit
scary
above.
because it's so easy to use everything else for excuses. Well, I'd work more if I didn't have 500 loads of laundry to do. I'd work more if you guys didn't want dinner. I'd work, you know what I'm saying? It's so easy, but really,
But really, it's,
we
yeah.
can do it. We can do the things.
Well, it's simple. It's not easy. That's what it boils down to.
It's
It's
easier to
simple,
do
it's
the,
clear, it's obvious, but it's not easy.
yes.
Just above what you read a moment ago, to go for easy and simple, you'll have to let go of everything in your life that is needlessly hard, which echoes back to in the I've drawn a blank, the Ambition Coalition with Melissa and Rebecca. You know, the questions, what am I making hard that doesn't need to be hard? That's not how it's worded, but that's the essence
Yeah.
of the question.
Right.
Is what in my life is needlessly hard right now? And what am I going to do about it?
Right.
Well, one of those things is cleaning my house. So, in the last few pages of the introduction, he gives kind of a brief overview of what's going to happen in each of the chapters. Okay. In the first chapter, you'll learn the details of the 10X process, begin to see exactly why 10X and 2X are opposites, why 10X is easier and simpler. In the second chapter, you'll learn how to commit to 10X and transform yourself and your identity through that commitment. So it's that identity piece that's scary.
And that goes along again with the training we did of who are your ideal self?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Yeah.
And don't let go of that. You know?
Well, and at the bottom of that paragraph, you'll learn to make 10X your standard and say no to increasingly great things, sharpening and refining your filter and identity. In the third chapter, you'll learn the difference between wanting and needing. You shift your energy away from needing You don't need to go 10x, you want to. Which is true. I don't need to. I could continue living exactly how I am,
Correct. Same.
but I don't want
I don't
to.
want to. I want to go shopping whenever I want, Angie.
Yes, I want to never hear the words, we can't afford it again.
Correct.
In the 4th chapter, you'll be shown a different perspective of your own past, enabling you to better see and appreciate all the 10x jumps you've already made. I almost want to jump to the 4th chapter. The 5th chapter will help you shift out of the linear and quantitative model of time that is taught in public education and continued in most of corporate America. Based on the industrial factory model, et cetera, this is probably part of what we were just talking about. Rather than operating in quantitative mode, you'll learn to leverage time qualitatively, wherein you have far more flow, fun, and transformation. Less scheduled. Your time will be less thinly sliced and fragmented. I want to skip to the 5th chapter. So that's also why I set up our schedule that we're going to go 10x on this book and we're going to do a chapter a week,
Okay.
even though they're long-ish. They're not at 30-ish pages. Okay, the 6th chapter takes all the building blocks of the previous chapters and challenges you to create a self-managing company where you create a culture of freedom. You'll have a self-managing and self-multiplying team to handle all aspects of your business. As a transformational leader, you'll be totally free to embrace the few things that matter most: innovating, strategizing, visioning, collaborating, evolving, etc. So, are you ready to go 10x?
I am. Are you?
Jeannie, are you ready to go 10x?
She has to go. She waved while you
Okay.
were working.
Oh, okay, because she's still there.
She
But
closed
okay.
her laptop, but she must not have X'd out.
Maybe so. Okay. So,
All right. So next week, chapter 1.
chapter 1, the whole thing. And at the book, let me look real quick. At the end of the chapter, this looks familiar. Page 37. The 20% and the 80%. I
Yeah.
think I saw that somewhere recently. Where is the end of this chapter?
62.
Okay. Because I've noticed that some of the chapters have questions at the end. This one just has takeaways. Okay. I wanted to encourage that if there are questions at the end, that it will be useful if we've considered those questions before we come to book study,
Correct. Okay.
whenever possible. So, okay.
All right.
So I think we're good for today.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.